What's love got to do? Got to do with it.
Ooh.
What's love?
But in the ocean. Girl.
Speaking of love, y'all. All right. We're here to love bomb you today, okay? And shower you with love because we love you, all right? And we don't want nothing back in return. We really don't. We just want to...
Wait, well, I guess we do. We want you to like and subscribe if you have not done so already.
Okay.
And we definitely appreciate and we definitely appreciate the continued support. If you're new, well, this is what we do every single week. We drop videos like this to help you, give you the tea, to help you and your life to become the best versions of yourself.
Yes. Thank you all for tuning in. But really, guys, let's talk a little bit about love, and what that really is. Oftentimes, we're telling each other that we love each other, and without realizing that there's not only many different variations of love, but a lot of people have, what do I call that? They love with expectations. What's another good word for that? Like,
we gonna say, if we're at to label it, we're gonna say toxic love.
Okay.
That toxic love, right?
And if there's going to be toxic love, then there must be something, that contradicts that, or that's kind of like on the opposite end, which would be more like a conscious love. And, and we love this topic because it applies to all kinds of love, It's not the ones just, romantically, but...
Exactly, because we are love, right? Love rules the world.
Absolutely.
So like you said, it's not just romantic love, it's platonic love, it's sibling love, it's work relationship love.
Yes.
All of that entitles requires love for it to be,
fruitful, for it to work,
Exactly.
But there is different types of love, and why we say that is because certain love really taps into our subconscious needs, and it can be expressed in an unhealthy way, okay?
Yes.
That's what we're referring to as far as toxic love. And then conscious love obviously is the opposite. But first, let's go in and talk about what the difference is between the two.
Yeah, and let's hit toxic love. Now, I feel like the word toxic has become such a very go-to word in the community, where everyone say this is toxic, this is not, but we're not really sure what it is in terms of like the practicality of it. What makes this love toxic?
Yes.
What makes it conscious, right?
Yes.
So the first thing about toxic love, like we said, this is just love in general. Romantic, platonic, you name it. But the first thing about it is that it's competitive. Okay? Now it becomes a competition of who loves more.
Yeah.
Okay? Who does more for what? It's almost kind of like it's giving me a tally. Like, oh, okay, well, I moved that for her today, so I did something more, so therefore I loved her more today.
Yes.
Or I loved him more today.
Right. Or like, I wake up every morning to make sure her coffee's done and everything's ready to go, but she never does anything like that for me, or she never thinks to stop and see, like, what I need as a person. So it's just it becomes really competitive, and it becomes too much about who does more for who, and that is a huge indicator of toxic love.
Yeah, because if we're at the point where you even are thinking you do more for the other, it's just like, what type of relationship is this then?
Yes.
Because now it is giving tally mark. It is giving me, I have a little notebook that I'm walking around saying noted, checked.
Like, it doesn't really feel like you're doing things from the heart. Already you're expecting something back, right? Kind of like how we were expecting these likes and these follows. But you get the point. You get what I mean. So it's just, it's not very genuine, and it's not conscious, okay?
And that's that feeling of what some of you guys may, label as going from lovers to rivals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, because that would be more accurately for describing for work, or like from friends to rivals.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a work setting, everything getting along great, and this and that, all of a sudden,
and even
now,
couples too, you see that. And it just becomes like, oh, I'm so in love with you, like, I'll do all this because I love you, and even if you were to stab me in the back, I'll still love you. you. Like, what is going on here?
Yes.
There's something underlining going on here.
And I tell you what, we're about to get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
That's what we do.
That's just what you see. That's just what we do. The next thing we have here on the list to show you that it is toxic love is when you are working independently. So two people are working independently to serve their own needs. Okay, so using the other person to serve their own needs instead of and it's also the same as both people could work together towards accomplishing one person's goal. But back to the first portion of like working independently to serve their own needs.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, so I get with this person and I don't really care about what they need.
Yeah,
I don't really care.
Their goals,
whatever. Who
right?
Who cares? All right. But in this partnership, this is the come up I expect. That is working independently to serve your own needs.
Yeah.
And it does entail, using the other partner in terms of helping you accomplish this goal. So it can look like, one person is never really getting to accomplish their goals or getting their needs accomplished, and then the other person is getting their goals accomplished, and they both, and it could be a manipulation situation happening where they both are now team working towards, instead of a goal that they both pitched into, it's a goal that one of the partners,
the more dominant one, right, in terms of the needs that's being met. And that can often look like being a footstool. So if as a partner, in whatever type of setting it is, if you feel like you're being a footstool while you're constantly being stepped on or like overlooked while this other person is they're reaching their goals, that's what that looks like for you. One partner is getting their needs met while you're not. Yours is always taking the back seat.
Absolutely.
And that's heavily an indication of toxic love.
Yes, and I often see where even in our TV shows that we watch sometimes or we stumble upon, you'll see that some people may even consider that as teamwork. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different words for that as far as why people become okay with it, but it really is a selfish act in terms of like, this is, I know it looks like we're together and all that, but this is really about me.
Right. Exactly.
Okay? And vice versa.
Ego.
Like they both would be thinking this way.
Yeah.
Hence, why the competitive portion would have came out of it, right? Like you mentioned before.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another indication of toxic love is that love bombing. And I get it, right? In the beginning, that may just look so beautiful, rose-colored glasses, everything. Oh my gosh, the amount of love this and that person shows me is just out of this world, right? And then it starts being from out of this world to it's very much now in this world. So now very much it doesn't exist in this world.
Okay.
What is happening?
Well, what is love bombing? Like, why do people do it? And oftentimes, like I'll even say love bombing comes from like someone's guilt, even like maybe they're trying to hide something. They did something and maybe the other partner doesn't know it. Like maybe, like for example, if me and my man are a couple and, and oops, I cheated. Oops, he never found out, but I love bomb and the ways that I treat him to make me feel better.
Yeah.
About the thing that I did to you, that you never know about, you never found out.
Exactly, right? It's like like you said, a guilt thing, a conscious thing, because though he may not know about it, every chance you get, because it's you and God, you're now trying to overcompensate for that, and kind of like love bombing the heck out of him to make whatever that situation it was okay.
Yes. And it never really becomes okay, and that's why oftentimes you feel like you have to love bomb more often. But also too, and it's like each of them explains each other a little bit more because you see the competition, you see in which you're serving your own needs with this situation. But love bombing have this effect on the other person where it makes the other person feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't
oh
that
snap,
crazy?
like they're showing me so much love and I'm not able to show them that love back. There's no way I could even repay what they're doing for me. Keeping the other person at that state of servitude. Like, oh, like, what do you need? What can I do for you?
Right where they wanted you in that trap. Now it's that, like, now it's heavily. And that's the perfect field for competing then. Because the one who loves bombs will then at a certain time withdraw the love bombing, and then the other partner then will be the one trying to do that exact reciprocal of that love bombing.
Okay, like, oh my gosh, right, exactly. Really creating a toxic situation where now the other person may even feel like they can't live without the other person. But when you got together, you were two separate independent entities, you know? So that needs that toxic field creates, it becomes unhealthy overall. Because then over time, then me love bombing you, for example, is going to make you, is going to, I want to say train you to need that.
Yes.
To need that.
Training, and that's a key word right there.
Yes, and after, you know, that certain point where you need it, it feels like now when it's without, it makes you start getting thoughts like, oh, they don't love me anymore.
Right.
Oh, like,
did I do something? Was it me? Was something I did wrong because you're not giving me as much as I did before?
Hence keeping you in that servitude state that I mentioned before, right?
Exactly.
So it's just an overall situation that is used mainly for manipulation, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like, it's not a great thing. Okay?
Yeah, and the thing with that toxic love too, because, you know, a lot of the things happening indoors, a lot of that can look like teamwork. But on the inside, right? Oh, on the outside it may look like teamwork, but on the inside it's not. Because the thing about toxic love is that it's a lot of the time, right? The love that you do on the outside is for show. You know what I mean? Like, oh, for the gram, for the friends, for the group, for the to see. But once it becomes on the inside, where it's not teamwork, then that's where it starts being like, oh,
the competition, or you know, like the tit for tat, or like and you'll even see that in extreme circumstances, one partner will even start to, the one who love bombs easily then starts to feel used, or I feel like they're being taken advantage of because they are overextending, you know, overdoing this, overshowing. There's, you know, usually a reason for these things. And then the next thing we have here is it almost even looks self-sacrificial, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, you don't see all the things I do for you. Like, I would do anything. You just have to ask me. Like, I would, you know what I mean?
It starts being that I do this, I do that. And it
like,
almost
what are you doing? And then it becomes hard to really balance out. All right, so if the person were to want to give to you the same thing you give to them, how the heck do you measure that? Things like, okay, I took you on this trip. Like, is it about the price that the trip costs, or is it about the management of the whole thing? You see what I'm saying? There's no real price or number really tied to it.
That's true.
So how the heck do you go about repaying that back? Hence, always keeping the person in a servitude position. Like, I owe them. You know what I mean? So it just, that self-sacrifice part is just a cherry on top, you know, as far as the love bombing and overcompensating and all of that comes with it, right?
Yeah. Because that's the one thing about toxic love, like you were saying, it is self-sacrificial. Now you have to break your back because the amount of debt that you owe this person is so huge and so significant. And that's where the little chipping of the self comes then to give what you have to that person.
Okay, and then totally ignoring each other's boundaries. You know, even the one that's doing the love bombing, the self-sacrifice and all of that. There's a portion of it that forces you to ignore boundaries. You not only ignore the other person's boundaries, because now you're going to force them to become in a state of mind where they're gonna give, no matter how much they got left or how much energy or anything. Because you're always just like, oh, look at everything I've done. You know, you owe me your life.
And it's like, whoa, the only person out of my life too is God. Let me tell you that.
Chill out, you know?
And like in the very end of it all, right? In the terms of toxic love, it's all of that leads to a balance of the imbalance of overcompensating, which is ultimately what it all could be tied to, because now what we were saying earlier, one is overdoing more. And when you owe somebody something, right, now like the other party now has to do A, B, and C.
And they better outdo what you did, because then it's gonna look like you're not putting the same effort the other person did.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Isn't that so toxic, y'all?
Yeah.
Like, it only like produces an environment where each people are being drained.
Okay.
Each people's boundaries aren't being respected, and using each other for their own needs, as you mentioned before. And you see that the spackles of the competition that produces out of toxic love.
Yeah. Look, so we're about to hop on out of toxic love, because we don't want that for you, because we know we don't got that, so we don't want it for anybody. No. And let's dive into conscious love.
Yes.
Okay. And like we said, love is the subjective part here. Romantic partnership, whether it's sibling love, whether it's work relationship, all of the above. This is the type of love that we all should be striving for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes the world go round. The first thing we have on the list here is, where both people are still working independently, but to take care of themselves.
Yep.
Okay. So that they can bring their best selves to each other.
Now that is wholesome.
Okay.
I love that.
That's beautiful, because I'm not making you take accountability for the things that I need to work on, that I need to, fix in myself.
Yeah.
That's not your job.
No.
That is not your job. That is my job to fix. And then when I get my stuff together, you know what I'm saying? Then with bringing that unison with both people separately working on themselves, you take larger strides versus than me putting aside what I need to work on to help you fix your problems. We still behind.
Okay. Because now it's like
it's taking more time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we were each born with the capabilities to dive into ourselves and face our demons and really work out the problems that we have, instead of making it the partner's responsibility to fix these issues.
Yeah. And that's where you will see that shift then, because each partner then realizes it's like you were saying, it's not my job to fix you then. You have to fix yourself. It's
Absolutely.
I have to go ahead and fix myself.
Absolutely. If you have an issue with mommy issues or daddy issues, whatever that is, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
You have to take care of that.
Exactly.
Because I'm not your mom. I'm not your papa.
And we're not.
So I have to fix my daddy issues and not expect my man to take place or replace that love that I guess my father didn't give me, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
We all have our own issues that we need to work on.
Exactly. Definitely. And so the next part of the conscious love part is making agreements, right? Now, because now we do, like we were saying before, right? We're both showing up as our best versions. For that to work out, we have to create a safe space. That's what the making agreements come in, because it's that team effort. This is love, right? So it's kind of like, okay, well, let's make an agreement to say, if you both are working on your finances, to not eat out 3 times a week, but only eat out 1 time a week, or whatever the case is, right? So then we can save up and be where we need to be.
Absolutely.
That's an agreement where you and your partner, your friends, whatever the case is, can agree on. Where you're like, okay, that makes sense, because we do have a bigger goal that we're trying to reach.
Absolutely. And I would like to shed some light on this, because you guys are geniuses and love to twist things that people say when we're referring to agreements. And I love that you use that example, as far as okay, let's work on this goal as far as our finances. We're not talking about agreements like, oh yeah, you can't hang out with your friends. Because I don't hang out with my friends. That's not an agreement.
No, that sounds like an ultimatum, which we dropped an episode on that too, so we can link up and you can see the details. Right.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're not setting ultimatums for each other. And these agreements are not supposed to be in any way limiting each other. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to add on. because that's what the teamwork is about.
Yep.
Now, how do we boost each other to the next level here?
Yeah.
And this team effort through the agreements that we make, okay? Versus, isolating the partner, or versus trying to find ways to keep them to ourselves, hence going back to the toxic love because we're using them to serve our own needs, okay? So keep that in mind while we go through these lists, guys.
That part.
The next one we have here is acknowledging each other's boundaries.
Love that.
Okay, absolutely. A lot of people think that love, when you love somebody, it means to be invasive.
Okay, like I gotta be all up in your space and we all gotta be in each other's space. Hold up now. I love you, but I could love you from here. And
okay.
You force it from out of distance.
You know what I'm saying? You still need to be able to protect yourself in the sense so you can have your peace of mind, so that you can be able to, together in a bigger effort, deal with the problems and face them head on, okay?
Exactly.
So, doing things like taking away boundaries is what really creates that toxic environment.
Yes, that self-sacrificial love we were talking about earlier, that's what creates that. Once you make the boundaries and with the rules, right, what a person is willing and not willing to do, now we have a safe spot, a safe zone, safe space where we all can play and actually have fun.
Absolutely. Yes, what to not cross. As far as like, okay, I don't know, this creates a bigger disaster. Like, for example, giving kids, candy right before bed.
Yeah.
Now you both have to stay longer, in order to, get the kids to bed and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just putting boundaries like that. Like, okay, let's agree, because it's also an agreement. Let's agree to not give these kids, candy before this certain time of the day.
Exactly. Or for like a relationship, right? A healthy boundary would be like, okay, well, like we're saying earlier, I'm not gonna stop you to go out.
No.
If you go hang out with your friends, right?
Yeah.
But go hang out with your friends, you could be like, okay, well, I'd appreciate if you were home by bedtime so we could put the kids to bed together. That's a healthy boundary.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, well, you could go and have fun. I'm not stopping you. But there is a time frame now for where I would like you to be home so we can take care of this agreement or offsprings or babies and kids together.
Right. And if there is an incident, because we also want to steer away from using the other person to apply, like help our own personal issues that we have going on.
Yeah.
Like, let's say we're having trust issues, and we don't want the partner to really go out late, and it has nothing to really do with the kids.
No.
But
you're not gonna be using that as an excuse.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't want them to be out with, a certain group of friends or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Honestly, you guys work out your own situations and figure out what works for you.
Yes.
But when it comes to that point of, when you are thinking about the reasons why you're about to ask for this boundary, if it is to subside with a personal issue that we have, now we're kind of crossing the line, okay? This is something that you need to work on yourself. Not to knock down that, yes, we agree, we should both be home by a certain time to keep each other, it's a safety issue too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I would rather, like, even sisters, like, even any type of relation, even at work, like, when you need to be back by a certain time from lunch to relieve the other person.
Yes, exactly.
To go on lunch, that's what we're talking about. There has to be an agreement, and when we're making these boundaries, let's be careful to stay away from the reasoning of making our boundaries because we have personal mommy, daddy, or trust issues that we have not worked out in ourselves.
Okay. And the great thing about conscious love that I like to add is that it's establishing principles, which is the foundation of you and what you're building, right? Like, we setting principles together as a unit. We don't participate in this and that. Like, we don't gossip, or we don't go out and we don't drink, or we don't do this. We don't, we treat others how we like to be treated.
Right.
These are principles that are very much embedded in conscious love because we are reflections of each other in whatever setting it is.
Yes.
And so that's the one thing you want to sit there and you want to think about consciously. And
And I like that, because even that is honoring the fact that we both are each working on ourselves to bring their best selves to each other.
Yeah.
So if that is a group goal, with the two people, with the, whatever the organization is, that, we're both not going to drink so we can be our best selves to each other, then that's a good thing,
Yes.
And if there needs to be set aside a time where the person can drink and have leisure time without going overboard, then that's okay too. It's really about what makes the world go round between this organization, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Where we at here? So taking accountability, guys. And why we're saying this is because when taking accountability, we do not manipulate through overcompensation, right?
Yes. Ooh.
So if we know that we're about to overcompensate for something, because, I don't know, something you don't want to take accountability for, maybe, like, stop yourself in the tracks. Like, there are more healthy ways to express this and, this stuff. Like, I would recommend it. I think coming out forward with anything, whether it was unfaithfulness, whether it was, you know what I mean, lack of judgment, bring it to the table.
Yes, I love that. And the one thing I like to add too is sorry is not accountability.
No.
It does not stop at, oh, I did this, I'm sorry. No, because, apologies without changed behavior is manipulation.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're saying, you know what I mean? Because accountability is very much you are aware of what you did, and now we are seeing the steps of how you can change that behavior.
Because we all make mistakes, And if you can talk it out with each other and come to a reason why this may be a logical reason why they did this, or not even logical, but okay, I understand why this mishap happened. But to show that, there's accountability being taken, the action has to follow. The words of promise is made when you do bring these things to the table. Yes. So that it creates a comfortable environment for both people to grow. Exactly. Because, things like unfaithfulness can really hamper and damage a relationship. Yeah. But beyond the damage of the relationship, it can damage the other person and stop them from their personal growth. And if you truly love somebody, you will not put them in a predicament to do that. Yeah. And just take accountability for what you've done instead of trying to overcompensate for the thing that you do not want to communicate.
That part, because that at the end doesn't fix the problem, say you cheated on that other person, you overcompensating now to get the person gifts or whatever the case is, doesn't fix the fact that you cheated, or doesn't fix the fact that now she may have lingering trust issues.
Yeah. It doesn't. It gaslights, and it creates a bigger pool of untrustworthiness, and it affects the relationship in much more negative ways than it does positive.
Exactly. Which leads us to the last one of the conscious love is active listening. And that's to understand each other's needs, which includes shared responsibilities as well as, shared resources. Active listening is huge because, and I love that we were saying it's to understand, because we're not listening now to just have a rebuttal.
Yes.
We're not listening to just quickly say something, oh, well, since you're bringing this up now, let me bring up something that you did to me months ago.
Okay.
That is not the time or place.
Okay, like, or even like, what is going on here? Saving ammo. And that's another thing too, when we're realizing the issues that the other partner has done, something that made us feel uncomfortable. And then holding that in to spill it later instead of like, hey, let's have this conscious conversation where we are actively listening to each other's needs.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. Ooh, wait till... Like, I know exactly when to bring this up. And then bring it up. You said, oh, okay. What about when you did this?
We've got to do, you've got to do better.
And neither person is taking accountability, right? It's more so now this is the reverse side of the competition of who did more harm to each other versus who did more love to each other, like we were mentioning before. Like, oh yeah, well, what about when you hurt my feelings with this? I was like, well, oh really? Like, this is not the time. And even you bringing that up, like, what about all the other times that it keeps you in the past.
Okay.
When we're trying to consciously be in the present.
Yes. So with that being said, the skill of active listening is going to be helpful, because while you're having disagreements, while you're going through arguments, right, listening to the other is going to help you stay conscious, stay present, and most importantly, realize that love is in the midst of all this. So that it's not, me versus you, it's us versus the problem.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
Yeah, we're on the side of love.
Bringing back the teamwork into it, and it helps when we are really taking each other into account. And if we're ever going through something in our minds, and the strong point you have to stand on is how the person hurt me, or how they made me feel, and it's never really the other way around, like, or how I must have made them feel to do this, or how I made them, then we're not really taking accountability, and we're not really considering our partner
at all, right? So what do you guys think, right? Toxic love, because at one point, right, because this is life and we signed up for this cool experience.
Yeah.
At one point in your life, you may have gone through toxic love.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it is now, that we're able to find these similarities, these symptoms of these traits.
And another word for toxic love, because I know that may trigger some people, is an unconscious love. It's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You are unconsciously, doing these things, and I don't know, coming up with your own definitions for what you think love is, and it really mostly has to do with serving your needs.
No, exactly right. And in the end, though, the saying of all we need is love is a toxic saying. I didn't want to burst your bubbles, but it is, because yes, love is everything. But guess what? Conscious love is even more powerful, because love can be that ambiguous, where it's like toxic lives in love too. If you're not being aware and being accountable for your actions, you could definitely label that as love when it's not.
Yes, and conscious love is acknowledging the fact that people aren't perfect, okay? People aren't perfect, but let's put a cap on that, because I know that's the main thing that a lot of people who are toxic will love to say the minute they get caught, or the
I'm
minute
only
they're
human.
put on the spotlight. Well, I'm not perfect, and I didn't know you were perfect either. Think that that's not what we're talking about. No, people aren't perfect. There are mishaps. However, we have to consciously take accountability and realize that no, people are perfect, but actually I was wrong because I intentionally did this, because I knew it would get this out of you, or I manipulated the situation like this in order to get you to, I don't know, love me more. Exactly. Whatever the reason might be. That you feel like, I just feel like I do so much for you and you never do enough for me. And it really has to do with, I don't know, the fact that you were really never loved as a child, which has nothing to do with your partner.
Exactly.
So
like in the midst of all of this, right? Like it definitely is, a lot of that is self-reflection.
Yes.
Because to truly love someone, you have to be able to truly love yourself and be able to, go work through those self-programming that we had embedded in us as children. Absolutely. Like you were saying. To be able to be our best selves, to love the other person, uniquely as God would have wanted us to.
And a lot of the times we find that, when we blame the other person as far as hurt, like the person hurt me, it's usually signs that it's something that wasn't resolved in yourself.
Yes.
So let's stop blaming each other, for our shortcomings or imperfections, the things that we need to work on ourselves. And the biggest form of taking accountability is really diving deep into your own self and figuring out the things that you do, why you do them. And I mean, we say this often because there is that is the real key to a lot of the problems that you're having.
Okay, time to pull out that mirror. But what do you guys think? Would there be more you would add to our list of what toxic love is versus conscious love?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you were in one, how did you pull yourself out of that and went to the other?
Yes.
And sometimes it does involve walking away. Not all the relationships that you can do is work through it to get to that. Sometimes the best is to walk away.
Yes, and it'll result to that situation when both people aren't, conscious, when both people aren't willing to take accountability for their part, and it's always like, oh, you made me feel, you did this to me, how could you, out of everything I've done for you, you both have to take accountability.
Yes.
And oftentimes when that's not the case, yes, then an ending does happen. But that's not to not give you hope, because if both people are growing, working on each other, working on themselves separately, then yes, there is a chance to change a toxic love into a conscious love. Everything is possible, y'all. Okay?
Through the grace of God, you know, it definitely is. But self-accountability and self-awareness is going to take you a lot of the way there, because like we say, God loves those who help themselves. And that's what the T is.
That's what it is, y'all. Sorry if you're expecting something different. Stop love bombing each other.
Okay.
It's just not healthy. Stop overcompensating and stepping over your boundaries. It's not healthy either.
It's
okay?
not.
All right. I mean, we love y'all.
Okay.
And a conscious love.
Yes. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the bell for a little notification. We drop videos like this every single week, y'all.
Every week. So don't forget to tune in. All right?
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.